Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored by Pavilion Payments, which empowers gaming institutions to create an enhanced patron experience with a complete suite of integrated payment solutions that enable safe, secure, and trusted cash access at the cage, on the casino floor, or online. Learn more at pavilionpayments.com. And this week we're joined by Jacob Coyne, the Director of Public Affairs for the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, on his life in tribal gaming and his role with the San Manuel tribe. Jacob Coyne is a well-known figure in tribal gaming, making the case for the development of Indian gaming since the start of the 1990s. Coyne served as Executive Director of the National Indian Gaming Association, along with other roles. He joined San Manuel in 2004 when the tribe's casino was just getting started, but is now the nation's most successful gaming enterprise as the Yaamava Casino Resort. Coyne has directed the community involvement, philanthropy, and public profile of the tribe. A member of the Hopi tribe in Arizona, Coyne explains the philosophy and culture of his tribe. He spoke with me during the Indian Gaming Trade Show in Anaheim in April.
Jake, it's really good to see you. We've known each other for a long time. You taught me so much about Indian gaming, and so it's really an honor for me to be able to sit down and talk to you for this podcast.
Roger, I was about to say the same thing, that over the years that I've known you and Dave Palermo, our mutual good friend, GGB magazine has been nothing but fair and accurate in reporting about Indian gaming, and for that I think all of Indian country owes you a great debt, and I'm happy to express that on behalf of San Manuel.
Great. Well, you mentioned Dave Palermo. He was a big reason that we covered the tribal gaming so fairly. I mean, he understood the commercial side and the tribal side, and one time he got us into trouble with MGM, but we won't even go there.
I think we all got into trouble with MGM at one time or another.
But he was a great guy, and we really miss him dearly. But I know you were very close to him as well, and we appreciate all the guidance you've given us over the years as well.
Yeah, listen, I've been always happy to work with you, Roger, and your company. It's been a wonderful experience for all of us.
Sure. Well, let's start. A lot of people don't know your background. We were talking before we got on the air how you like to keep below the radar, but I think you're one of the key figures in tribal gaming right from the start. I mean, you've been in it for a while. So why don't you give us a background of how you got into it? Even start with where you were born.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. Yeah, it has been a remarkable run, almost 30 years in Indian gaming policy and the entire breadth of issues that are associated with Indian gaming. But I was actually born and raised on the Hopi Indian Reservation in Arizona, where my early education was really about Hopi, the culture itself. Sure. And I remember as a young boy sitting in what we call our ceremonial chambers, or kivas, there in the village, especially during the winter months when the old men would tend to a fire there in the kiva just to keep it warm and ready for ceremonial events, and sitting in a dark corner just listening to them talk about history, about traditions, about culture and customs and the way things were back in their day. And many of these old men would have been born probably in the late 1800s, 1890s, and thereafter. So I got the benefit of just a whole lot of information. Of course, I learned about my own family and my clan, education and the like, but it was so much more gratifying to have learned about the wider breadth of issues and matters that are important to Hopi. And went to the day school there at run by the federal government, so I got a bit of a taste of federal education, which was not always the best. I mean, we were hearing today about federal Indian boarding schools, and a lot of that, a lot of what happened in the boarding schools also happened at these day schools. So.
Sure.
But then fast forward, I went to Arizona State. I graduated from Tuba City High School and went to Arizona State and earned my degree and went to work almost right away for tribes, including my own first. And then, as luck would have it, I wound up working in Washington, D.C. for Hopi in the late 80s, early 90s, when I became a little more knowledgeable about Indian gaming, and subsequently made the move over to that side.
Okay, great. So now you're working for San Manuel. I mean, the very interesting tribe, and you're talking about the Hopis and the San Manuel tribe. every tribe is different. They have a different kind of fingerprint, different cultures. But so tell us about what your duties are at San Manuel at this point.
Well, let me just say that at the very I will have been there 20 years in October this year. And I remember when I first got to San Manuel, I took an interest in their language class because they were holding language lessons in Serrano back in that time. And I remember sitting in the class and hearing certain words that sounded very much like Hopi. And I later found out that Serrano and Hopi and Comanche and Shoshone and others are part of the same language family. So you can only maybe surmise that at some point in the distant past, they may have been one people. We don't know. But from that point, obviously the cultural activities of San Manuel and Serrano Indians, and they call themselves the Yahaviatum, the people of the Pines. It's a specific clan of Serrano. There's, 10, 12, 13 of them altogether. But I've really taken to heart, the kind of vision that they have. I think it mirrors what many tribes have in terms of long-term planning, ensuring that the quality of life for their people is not just economically grounded or socially grounded, but culturally and ceremonially, and all the religion, the native spirituality, and all of that. It's all such a part of the conversation that you can't help but sort of get involved with, with that interest. So I'm happy to be there.
Great. So the San Manuel tribe runs the Yaamava Casino in outside of San Bernardino. I had the opportunity to go there a few years ago before the expansion, and it was a Tuesday afternoon, and I think every slot machine was filled up. I mean, it is the most successful tribal casino in California. What does that mean to you when it comes to setting policy and things of that nature?
Well, they become successful not just by happenstance. There's a lot of design, I'm sure you might guess, into evolving to what they've become. And I can tell you that based on having worked directly with philanthropy, for example, and engaging some of the operational, professionals and regulatory professionals, that everything is grounded or revolves around the tribe's mission, vision, and values. And it's a wonderful statement that they spent several years, making and putting on paper, and finally, reciting them at every public occasion that they have. And it's a wonderful way to keep themselves focused and on the right road. And so, the whole matter of how they became successful, it's grounded again on the principles of hospitality, of friendship, of goodwill, and the kinds of things that really matter most to them as a people. And they, in the old days, in the days of their ancestors, we're told that people used to refer to them as Hamanat, because Hamanat was a Serrano word to greet people, and people assumed that was their name. And so wonderful stories like that are just their history is marked with many of those kinds of examples.
Well, also, the San Manuel is the first Native American tribe to own a casino in Las Vegas when they purchased the Palms several years ago. Cindy Kaiser Murphy is a good friend of mine. I've known her for as long as I've known you, and she is a remarkable individual. But the way she was able to incorporate the San Manuel culture and really join it together with the Palms, we have a story in our tribal government gaming this issue of how she says now it's really just one culture. And explain how the culture there really extends not only just to tribal members, but also people who work for the tribe.
Again, the theme is hospitality, goodwill, and friendship. And this is the way that the Serrano Indians at San Manuel, treat their guests, their team members, their employees, their friends, their fellow tribal nations. And it's just a wonder. I mean, I'm surprised that that the Palms has caught on so quickly.
Yes,
It's
it
only been
has,
a couple of years.
No,
you know,
absolutely. It's one of the more successful of the new casinos in Vegas,
Yeah,
for sure.
and in that very short time, I mean, the entire enterprise has been wonderful to work with. They've been very open. In fact, invite, cultural information, cultural historical information, tribal information and all of that. So they've been a wonderful group to work with.
Yeah, no question about that.
And the GM there has been especially wonderful because she leads that kind of sentiment, the interest
Right.
in San Manuel.
Well, that also, flows down from the management of the Yaamava Casino with Peter Arceo and Kenji Hall. I mean, those are just two of the individuals that really
Absolutely,
shine.
yeah. They've made it a point to include cultural activities, bird singing and the like in their events that they hold with team members. So it's been a wonderful experience.
So one of the things I was made aware of when I came to the tribe, came to the casino, was you really have a really small reservation. I think the hotel was pushing up to the edge of the reservation. Does that kind of hinder the tribe a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, their reservation was established by presidential executive order in 1891 with just 640 acres, 1 square mile, most of it along the steep foothills of San Bernardino Mountains. And the land where the casino and the resort sits is probably the only flat land, if you will, on their reservation.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, they are landlocked for the most part. I mean, the city of Highlands, city of San Bernardino, and the U.S. Forest Service, kind of, surround the reservation boundary. So it's difficult for them to grow, despite the fact that they are a growing tribe. You've got a number of young people that are now reaching adulthood and seeking to raise their own families, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. But also the community outreach that the tribe does, and we saw that in Vegas when they came. They've made several large donations to UNLV and some of the other charitable organizations in Vegas. But I know in California they're renowned for that.
Again, it's all based on their mission and values. They believe that they are stewards of their ancestral territory, which takes in 7.4 million acres in the high deserts of Southern California and into the San Bernardino Valley and, of course, the mountain areas. And every concern and interest in that region is borne out through their philanthropy. And they love creating new relationships, new partnerships with nonprofits throughout that region. And I think since 2003, they've invested over $400 million in philanthropy in those areas and Indian country.
Yeah, no question about it. So that's to be admired for sure. So let's talk about politics in California. Obviously, as public policy, you've got to be hip deep in this kind of stuff. Politics in California is very complicated with all the different towns and counties and even the governor. But,
Yes.
And then the gaming industry is somewhat diverse with all the many tribal casinos, but there's also the card clubs and the racetracks. How do you navigate through that all those different elements?
Yeah, I think we do that, I think, effectively by staying focused on what has gotten us to where we are today in terms of policy and public policy and the gaming environment. The gaming environment in California is probably the most together in terms of effectiveness and over regulation and outreach and compacting than maybe any other state. And I say that, a bit boastfully because, the great care that they take to make sure that the gaming events, the gaming activities are first tribe-led and then they benefit California in terms of jobs, in terms of economic impacts, in terms of revenue sharing, in terms of all of the things that matter to to our surrounding communities and to the state of California. And so we're very proud of that. We stay focused by, again, staying close to what got us there. Over 22 years now, the tribes and the state of California working together have developed, I think, a well-regulated, safe gaming environment that is a good option for people for entertainment, those who are seeking entertainment options. And we I think, rest on that on that success, and then I should not say rest, because we're endeavoring all the time
Sure.
to make it even better.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at the history of gaming in California since the compacting, came into being, there's never been a single scandal involving gaming operations with tribes in California.
Sure.
Everything has been strictly regulated, effectively regulated. I've said when I was doing national work in Indian gaming policy that no sector of the gaming industry, at least in this country, is more regulated than tribal gaming.
Right.
Yes.
There's so many different levels.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so many different layers and so many different multiple agencies at
Right.
each level are involved in some way on oversight.
Great. And also, the gaming tribes in California also contribute some funds to the non-gaming tribes. And non-gaming tribes are non-gaming because they're in really remote locations where they don't have the opportunity to have the market that, say you do in San Bernardino.
Yeah, again, that's the character of California tribes is the interest and the commitment to looking out for each other. That commitment was made 20 years ago. I know they're working hard to try to ensure that commitment continues, and that tribes that are receiving what they call the revenue trust fund benefits get a chance to grow as well. And so there's ongoing talks about how best to do that.
Sure. Okay, great. So, the tribes are also unified when it comes to the issue of sports betting. Obviously, this is a huge issue. California is probably the biggest market in the country for these sports betting issues. And there was two referendums, 2 years ago, and they were both turned down by kind of massive voter disapproval. Where are we going with that now? Is there a possibility that could be revisited anytime soon?
Likely.
Yeah.
I think probably every tribe in the state is at least having some behind-the-curtain conversations about exactly how that should unfold.
Sure.
And I'm seeing on the agenda here at the Indian Gaming Convention that subject has been discussed. And I've not been here for these sessions, but I'd be curious to know from others how those conversations went. But sports betting, sports wagering, whether it's online or in person, is something that certainly is the elephant in the room, as they say.
Sure, right, yeah.
And the tribes have, I think, staked out what they believe are critical principles for that to happen. Number
Right.
one, it must be done under the control and being led by tribal nations, again, with a 20-plus year track record of being good stewards of gaming policy in California. I think they've earned that right to be in the lead and making those things happen. Partnerships with service providers like the FanDuels and DraftKings and others, I think people are acknowledging that they could have a role.
Sure.
But the way the initiative unfolded 2 years ago was just not the way to do that. But I think people have learned, and at least they're talking about having learned, and are maybe recalculating what goes forward next time.
Can you see sports betting being legalized on a retail basis to begin with? Just, you have to go to the casinos to bet, or maybe even the tracks. In that case?
That is an interesting question, because we're having the kind of conversations about, so we have now, almost 40 years of Indian gaming under IGRA. And sometimes we get so far away from the point of origin that we sometimes forget what those values were
Sure.
back in 1988. Even in the late 70s, when the Seminoles started this whole movement, the whole idea was to secure a future for the tribes, for their people, for their communities, for their nations, and to use whatever, in this case, gaming rights they would have as a part of that strategy. And it seems to have worked out well. I mean, there's still less than half of the tribes in this country are involved in gaming.
Right.
So there's still a lot of other tribes who are still struggling and trying to find ways to tend to their obligations.
Sure.
And those are the kinds of things that I think are going to be important down the line, whether or not they're going to be involved in sports wagering, and especially if mobile gaming comes online,
Right.
or mobile sports wagering. Does that give these remote tribes an opportunity to participate? I don't know what the answer is.
Right.
But these, I think, are viable and critical factors to be discussed when the talks begin in earnest.
Sure. So you mentioned the Seminoles. Can you see something like the Florida model, which is now in place, where the Seminoles control the sports betting in the state of Florida, and the bets are assumed to be being made on the reservation?
Yeah, that's a wonderful ideal. If we can ever get that to be acceptable across the country, I know that's one of the things that we discussed a few years ago about whether or not the Seminole model is going to be being acceptable. It's going through its challenges, as you know, and hopefully we're hoping for the best.
Sure, no question. Well, it is a great market there, and being in California, I couldn't bet on the NCAA championship the other night,
right.
So I should have made my bets before I left Nevada, but I didn't. So let's just, I want to go back to the Hopi tribe. I mean, I know, they're almost a mysterious tribe, because they're a very remote location in Arizona, so it really wasn't feasible for them to have casinos. Are there any casinos attached to the Hopis at this point?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that they signed a compact a few years ago, which I'm not sure the intent was necessarily to build a casino, but rather to secure their slot machine allotments.
Right, exactly.
Which you don't have unless you sign a gaming compact. And I'm sure they're doing some things again, behind the curtain, but I'm not aware of what they're doing. But again, as a matter of right, I mean, the Supreme Court ruled that tribal nations have a governmental right to conduct gaming on their lands, and if they're able to pursue that in a way that's acceptable culturally to the Hopi society, then it may work for everyone.
Right. Well, as I said, it's a fairly remote tribe, and I know Dave Palermo. You were able to get him into some of the ceremonies, and he was just totally floored with that. He was so honored to be able to be there. So if you go to the center of the Hopi tribe, I mean, and you're not a member of the tribe, are you welcome?
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, Roger, I'm going to invite you to come and visit Hopi whenever you might find some time. But yeah, Hopi is. Again, it is one of the most conservative tribes in the country.
Right.
And they are Hopis are an agriculturally based tribe, and yet how and why they choose to settle in an area that gets less than 8 inches of rainfall a year, being an agricultural people is something that has always puzzled people. But when you're born and raised in that society, the fact of it is we are people of faith, and we believe that if we maintain or keep our covenants with the Creator at the time of our creation, to be stewards of the land, to live a good life, to be, to build goodwill among people, our prayers call for Sopkewatsin, meaning people of all people around the world. It means the yellow ones, the black ones, the white ones, and the red ones. We pray for everyone. Everyone is valuable to the Hopi way of thinking, and it's a wonderful, wonderful concept, a wonderful way of life that I wish more people could get exposed to.
Right, great. Well, I will take you up on that invitation, because I would love to see exactly what goes on there. I was able to travel through the Navajo Nation to their Winter Rock complex, and that really touched me. So I would love to try the Hopi experience as well.
Well, you're welcome. And in fact, I want to go with you when you come, so
Okay,
please let me know.
That'd be great. Well, Jake, thanks for taking the time to join us. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be able to talk to you, and I'm glad we were able to do this finally.
Thank you, Roger, for this invitation. Again, we value our friendship and our long association, so all the best with Global Gaming Business Magazine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for joining us on the GGB Podcast, sponsored by Pavilion Payments, the industry's leading cashless payment provider. To learn more about the topics discussed today and all the important issues in gaming, check out Global Gaming Business Magazine. For a free virtual copy of the magazine, subscribe at ggbmagazine.com. To stay current with the weekly news of the gaming industry, subscribe to ggbnews.com. Use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the GGB Podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.